yourself comfortable, because the first thing I'm going to ask you about is pain. Specifically, have you ever loved something so much that it hurt? To hurt, to go without it, perhaps. Now, when it comes to people, that would not be very surprising, right? It's very natural. When we miss somebody, we love somebody, we feel their absence, it's pain. But what about things? Stuff, not people, stuff. Have you ever loved something so much that you hurt by not having it? Or that maybe even you hurt yourself in the pursuit of it? When it comes to the love of people, of course, that's common too, right? To be in love, to pursue somebody. The pain of infatuation, most of us learned even as children. And the path of an unrequited or an unreturned love can be the definitive pain of our entire lives. Indeed, the love of God can feel painful, the longing for God, that is. And many of the saints speak of their quest for communion with Him in these terms, the terms of a lost love, of a pierced heart. The most often chanted psalm that we have in the whole church is Psalm 50 in the Septuagint, 51 in your typical English translation, which cries out, "The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart. These, God, you will not despise." So having a broken heart, having pain and longing is part of the life, the spiritual life. But have you ever longed for something so much that you actually hurt yourself going after it? This kind of pain and the danger of this kind of injury is what lies at the heart of the gospel readings today. And following from last week, it has everything to do with having a right understanding of our relationship with God in terms of the gifts that we've been given and the labors that we've been given to perform. So let's begin with the second gospel first, Matthew 21, starting at verse 33. You see it in your bulletin. The parable of the wicked vine dressers. The wicked vine dressers were people who had an arrangement. They had been entrusted with some gifts to do some labors, with a vineyard. But they were only renting it. They did not own it. They were working on it so that they could receive the benefits of that work, right? Just like a tenant farmer might today. But they decided somewhere along the line, because the owner of the vineyard had been gone for so long, that they would rather keep the vineyard for themselves and not pay the rent. They refused then to acknowledge the authority of those, the agents of the owner, who are sent to make collections. They refused to acknowledge the authority of the landlord himself when he sent his own son. And this landlord gave them everything. It's very specific. It says he planted the vines, right? He put a fence around them. He dug the winepress. He even built a tower, meaning a place of protection and fortification to protect this place. He's the source of their entire life infrastructure. Without him, they would have nothing. But in their wickedness, they decide that not only will they not pay the rent, but they will attempt to seize the vineyard by force for themselves. They figure if they kill the son, and the owner is far away and he's never coming back, no one will remain to contest their claim on this property. There will be no rival. And so they take the son. They kill him. Now, the immediate context, of course, of this parable, as you might guess, is first century Judea and the role of the Messiah in it. The priesthood, who were in collusion with the ruling authorities, the King Herod and the aristocracy of the day, so to speak, were functionally atheistic. They no longer really expected God to be present in the temple, and they didn't really expect him to return or come through his Messiah in any form. They didn't believe any longer, really, that they had to answer to anybody but themselves, and this is pretty clear from their behavior. So they no longer give back to God the true glory that is due to him. And they have corrupted the city of Jerusalem, that fenced-in place with its tower of fortification for the people of God. They've corrupted it through their greed and their ambition, their wickedness. So Jesus' parable is a prophecy and an accusation. He knows that they will kill him, the Son of God, and seek to preserve their worldly monopoly on religious authority in particular. But Jesus also prophesies the rise of a new temple, so to speak, a new group of vine dressers, a new church, who will render to him the fruits in their due seasons. And the wicked vine dressers, the priests and the king and the aristocracy of the Jews, would lose their monopoly and their hegemony, their privilege. And that's exactly what happened. Quite amazing. Through the lowest people of the society, Jesus transformed the whole structure of the society. Through fishermen, through prostitutes and publicans, through tax collectors. And through them, the church was brought to the entire world, to all nations, to the barbarians and the civilized. And the temple is no more to this very day. But this parable is more than just first century rhetoric, and we shouldn't take it as limited to that. The problem is that it reveals a problem in the human heart, which is continuous throughout all that time, even today and forever, really, as long as we're in the fallen world. We all are capable of becoming wicked vine dressers, right? That is to say, we all fail to wisely tend the gifts that we've been given. We fail to understand the purpose of our labors, and so we fail to render to God the fruits that are due to him. Sometimes we love the gifts. We forget about the giver. And this is what hurts us. We end up losing both our relationship to God and, of course, we're going to lose our relationship to the stuff that we've fallen in love with because it was never there forever to begin with. We were always going to have a temporary relationship to our stuff, so we're going to lose that anyway. So it's a lose-lose situation. And it's for this reason that the Lord teaches us this exact lesson in the Gospel of St. Mark today about the cross. He said, when he called the people to himself with his disciples also, he said to them, whosoever desires to come after me, let him take up his cross and follow me. For whoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake and the gospel's will save it. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? Or what will a man give in exchange for his soul? So if we love the gifts that we've been given at the expense of the giver, we end up losing everything. We lose the gifts and we lose our relationship with the giver. But if we love the giver and we are willing to give away the gifts again, then we gain the giver. That means we gain all. What could the wicked vine dressers give in exchange for their souls, which they had sold for earthly gain? What profit in the end did they truly have if they lost eternal life in the bargain? They came into the world thinking that they were renting to own. And then eventually, when it didn't seem to work out that way, they decided to steal to own. But they never realized that God brought them into the world to make them more than renters, and certainly more than thieves, but to make them heirs and fellow children with Christ and his kingdom. What a great gift. And what did they sacrifice that for? For the love of stuff, basically. Love of themselves and their stuff. So here's where we get to the question of money, which I promised that I would last week. Because what is money but the symbol of stuff? By itself, it's pretty meaningless and valueless piece of paper. It's dirty. It's covered with germs. But it represents something far beyond itself, correct? It's actually a form of an icon. Did you ever think of your currency as a form of icon? Because Jesus did. When they asked him, should we pay taxes? He said, show me the coin. Whose icon is this? Whose image is this? Caesar's. Well, render to Caesar what is Caesar's, and God what is God's. He identified currency as an icon, because all an icon is an image. And just like our icons in the churches, this represents far more than just the paint, the stuff of which it's made. It's made out of different colored dirts, things like that we blend together. It's really not that far different in the end than those wonderful cave paintings in France, right? That go back thousands and thousands of years. It's just a more elaborate form, but that's all it is. It's shiny dirt, stuff. It points to something greater than itself. And so when we think of money, we need to think about that image. Now, how many of you can still remember a middle school social studies class, right? And you first had to learn your lesson about the development of monetary systems and currency. And money represents goods and services, right? And at that point, as the teacher was droning on, your eyes began to glaze over, and you started to think about the things you really cared about, whatever it was. But bear with me. The point is, if that our money is just an image of stuff, it's basically that, an image or an icon of goods and services. Before the rise of monetary economies, people just traded their goods and services, right? The stuff they wanted or the things they wanted you to do. You have some of this, I want some of that, trade you for this, trade you for that, whatever. And of course, it only works if you can make the arrangements, right? Maybe you have to find a third person or a fourth person. Eventually, it got too difficult. And so eventually, they just came up with a placeholder. They said, here, this will represent a finite amount of goods and services. And you can trade it for anything. And it was a great breakthrough of civilization, right? Makes sense. And so now we have money as an icon of our stuff. Now, how many of you believe or have heard, as Pink Floyd sang, money is the root of all evil today, right? Well, is that true? Is that what the Bible teaches? That would make things pretty difficult, wouldn't it? Because then how are you going to get the stuff that you need and the services that you need if you don't have stuff to trade or services to give that the other person wants? You won't have that placeholder anymore. Christians need to be able to use money like everybody else. And guess what? They do. And the church, as an organization, needs money to pay for the lights and the air conditioning and the shiny dirt, for the light of the candles, to pay for its ministries, to pay for its missionaries, to build the buildings. Does that mean then that the church, to become what it is, had to participate in evil, and not just evil, but the root of all evil? Doesn't that then therefore make the church inherently corrupt? Some people, yeah! There's a lot of people out there want to say that, yeah, but then you'd have to apply that equally to everything. In which case we're all equally corrupt and evil. Should we be ashamed or suspicious of the fact that the church dares to ask us for so much, including our money? Well, unless we have enough people here with enough skills and talents and resources that we have somebody who can bring the bricks, and we have people who know how to lay them, and we have people that have a lot of earwax and can make the candles, or if we have people who know how to jerry rig an air conditioner out of like MacGyver. Okay, we had that, then we don't have to ask for money. We've got the goods and the services. We can do it. So unless you all became farmers, engineers, bookbinders, and painters, we're going to do it the same way everybody else does in the world. We're going to trade for it, and we're going to use money as a placeholder, just like you do at home. Because the truth is, the Bible does not say anywhere that money is the root of all evil. That verse is a corruption, actually, of the actual verse from St. Paul in 1 Timothy chapter 6, where he says, the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. And even if the word kinds of evil is an interpolation to the Greek genitive ton, you could just still translate it, the love of money is the root of all evil. You still have the fundamental difference, and that is it's not money, but the love of the money that is the source and the root of the evil. In fact, in Greek, the term is philargyria, literally the love of silver. Philos is the phil, right? Love. It's a heart problem. It's not a wallet problem. Okay? The wallet, it opens and closes based on the dictates of this, the heart. So the Ten Commandments, the very last of the Ten Commandments is what? You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, nor his ox, his donkey, nor anything else that is your neighbor's. Okay? Is that because the house is evil? Is it because the wife is evil? Don't answer. Is it because having employees is evil? Having oxen or donkeys, is that evil? Smelly, but not evil. Okay? None of those things are evil. It is the covetousness that's the evil. It's the love of things that are not your own. It is the heart problem that is the source of the evil. So St. Paul's not teaching us to not have any money or not to even make money. Okay? Elsewhere, he's very explicit about the need for the church members to support their own families, to support their ministers, to pay for its expenses, to be charitable. That's all about money. Okay? So if we look at actually, and with St. Paul, you should always do this, by the way. Never take one verse. Always take the whole paragraph into context, because he writes that way. If you look at 1 Timothy chapter 6, there's this kind of long passage about this whole subject, and that verse is just one part of it. And the whole part is this. Bear with me. So you can turn to 1 Timothy 6, starting at verse 6 if you want. Now godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. And having food and clothing, we shall be content with these. But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and harmful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, for which some have strayed from the faith in their greediness, covetousness actually, and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. But you, O man of God, flee these things and pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, and gentleness. So it's about a whole context of right relationship to your stuff and to God. The true biblical corrective and counter to the love of money is godliness with contentment. Godliness with contentment. Not just contentment. I don't want to just say contentment, but godliness with contentment. Because it's about more than being happy just with the things of this earth, but really seeking the things beyond as well. But indeed, contentment is the key to true happiness. Contentment means the acceptance and enjoyment of the things that we have and the things that we do, our work, our labor. And we know that everything is a gift that we've been given. We didn't come into the world with it. We're not going out with it. We're content with what we have. It's the desire for more than what we need that gets us into trouble. It's through the desire for more and more stuff that we end up hurting ourselves, piercing ourselves with many sorrows. I think I said to you last year, and I've said this recently, one of the primary source of marital strife, for example, is financial problems. It's not having a good relationship with your stuff that causes grief in your relationship with each other. how much of our trouble and our sorrow would be alleviated if we learned how to live in contentment. And if we want to get what we need and to be secure and comfortable and so forth, where we're not afraid, then we need to live a life of virtue, where we find true riches. That's why we call them values, by the way, because they're valuable. They're actually worth more than stuff. St. Paul gives a list that we should pursue: godliness, righteousness, faith, love, patience, gentleness. Against such things there is no law, right? These are the things that truly help us to fill our longing of what really matters, what really means something. And it brings us close to God, and it lets us walk in peace. So letting go of those things of life that we thought were so important, the stuff, allows us to actually find and gain true life. Thus, whoever would lose his life, who let it go for the sake of the gospel, will find it and keep it. Surrender your life into the hands of God. Seek him first. Only then will our relationship to our stuff be put right, and we'll appreciate the gifts that we've been given, and we'll understand the purpose of the labors that we are called to make. Enough for today. Next week we will look at the practice of contentment in our daily lives through giving and service. Until then, may God bless each and every one of us through his true vine, the Lord Jesus Christ, with whom he is blessed, always, now and ever, and unto ages of ages. Amen. Christ is among us.